So I like to say, since this is taped on Torah Anytime, that we're sponsored by Shabbat.com. Again, it doesn't mean that they paid me because it's my organization, but basically it's my way of letting you know that if you're not on it, it'll change your life. Okay, so check it out, Shabbat.com. And actually that's going to segue into the very beginning of my talk. As some of you know, I'm on the radio, and go on. You heard? Yeah? Okay. So what did we speak about today?
I don't know.
It was a memorable show. I'm kidding. When I speak about something, so I try to speak about, the inyan of the yoma, what's very topical, what are people speaking about. And right now, what a lot of people are speaking about is this asifa by the Agudath Israel about the internet. So I figure, okay, let's get a few people excited. I have a call-in show, so it's always good to pick on something that I think will get a good response. And I figure the internet is as good a place as any to start with a good response. So we began speaking about the internet. And as predicted, a lot of people called, and a lot of people sent text messages for me to read on the line, all the way to the point that we didn't even get through half of the text messages. So next week we're going to do a part 2 of a very important topic. So I think what I want to do in this talk is start off with, perhaps it's my own view, perhaps it's from my Rabbi, and I hope it is, how one looks at the internet. But this talk is not about the internet, but it segues very nicely into it, and I'll explain to you how it does. The great danger, the great calamity of today is what? So, on the surface, it seems like it is the internet. The internet is the villain. The internet is the devil. And the truth of the matter is the internet is a scary Wild West. But really, the issues go far deeper. And the issues have to do with us being unsatisfied with our own Yiddishkeit, unsatisfied with ourselves, unsatisfied with Shabbos, unsatisfied with davening, unsatisfied with the school that we go to, and our rabbeim and our teachers. And when we become unsatisfied, we feel a little bit down and depressed. And all you need to do is go to this Ari Miklat called the internet, and it makes you feel all better about yourself. But the reality is that it doesn't. It makes you feel a little bit worse about yourself. And the reason it does that is there are 3 great dangers when it comes to the internet. These are, we call them the 3 dangers. And what's interesting is that when people are engulfed in one of the 3 dangers, they feel like this is the reason why the internet is bad. But people who are involved in one of the other 3, they say this is why it's terrible. And the truth is that all 3, although they're separate reasons, each one is a reason that this Agudath Israel is getting together and trying to get clarity in why is it that we are slipping and falling, and what is the danger. So I'm going to start off with this talk, with this topic, and then we're going to segue into what I want to speak about. Now, the first thing I want to tell you, I'm sorry if Rabbi Wallerstein ever listens to this, but I have Facebook. Not only do I have Facebook, but I am on Facebook a lot during the day. I'm in Kiruv, and in Kiruv, you got to go where they are. And they are on Facebook, and I'm trying to reach thousands of Yiddish neshamas. As a matter of fact, it's really a little bit of a shaila if you're on a college campus and you're getting paid to do work. If today the way that you reach students is through the medium of Facebook, so then to say, you know what, it's not going to be part of me. Eventually, hundreds, if not more, neshamalach are never ever going to hear about your shirim, hear about your classes, get Yisayros from you. The paradox, or the stira, or the difficulty is that you don't want your own kids to watch it, or to have it, or to be members of it. So Mekarvim in particular, which I'm one of them, live in this double life. On one hand, we use it, and we have to use it. It's really not shaykh not to be on it. On the other hand, we understand its dangers, and there's no way we want our kids on it. that is a little bit of the dance, and it's a little bit of the difficulties. And because of that, the first thing I want to say is, like any issue that exists out there, there is nuance. There is nuance. And it's very easy to look at the world like it's black and white, and step where it's black, step where it's white, and therefore I'm in the right and you're in the wrong. There was, this is also an interesting topic to be videoed on record for, but I'm not concerned. There was a fellow who, this is going to rub some of you the wrong way, but I'll just get it out there. Why not, right? There's a fellow in Miami who wanted to help with with shidduchim, with issues and with problems. And this fellow is a very, very fine person. I know him. He is, by profession, a plastic surgeon. So he decided to help the way that he could. And he said, and he actually spoke to a number of shadchanim about it. So, number of shadchanim, he said there are some people, whether male or female, either one, that have, the way Hashem made them, there's something about them that is very obvious and protruding. And he, as a plastic surgeon, was able to remedy it. And in his mind, in his eyes, and in his Rabbeim's eyes, that would be something that he could offer the public. So he came out with this big news article. It wasn't meant to be big. It actually evolved into becoming big. He wanted to keep it smaller, but it is what it was. And it got in the newspaper. Anyone hear of this? One person? Okay, it was actually, the whole news story is only 2 weeks old. So it was pretty big at that time, although it was sort of like a flash and then it disappeared. But here's the person, and the feedback that he got was from a lot of people making comments were very negative. It's very negative. And if you don't like a person, they shouldn't be looking at the nose, and they shouldn't be and everyone is bashing this fellow who, in essence, was offering a service to some people who he felt could use it. And he would speak to the shadchan, he'd speak to the rabbi, but wasn't done, I'm 19 years old, I'd rather, up nose, therefore. But some people who had whatever, he was there for. And he got bashed in the media by Jew and non-Jew alike. Now there's one person who does an online commentary blog, and it's a lady, and she went to town on this guy. She went to town. She made a video. I felt like throwing up were her words, and so on. You know what I'm talking about? I felt like throwing up, and this, and that. So, something about that rubbed me the wrong way. So I called up this lady, and I said, I want to just give you another perspective. I said, what if you know of a girl, you're a girl, what if you know of a girl who's 36 years old, she has some sort of a feature that most guys would consider to be a deformity, or something that it sticks out to the point that no, people aren't even offering her shidduchim, and that person happened to be your sister. And there was someone who was offering her a service that normally they charge $10,000 for. They'll do it for free to help her get a shidduch. And it's mutar lahalacha, by the way. It is mutar lahalacha. There are many, many poskim that speak about it. That emotional trauma is considered a mum as well. You can hear there's Rabbi Becher. You go to Torah Anytime. Torah Anytime is a great website. Well, actually, this is going to be on that. You go to Torah Anytime. Rabbi Becher speaks a lot about the pros and cons and the halacha of getting different kinds of plastic surgery, and he comes out that most poskim say in many cases it's mutter. So I called this lady and I said, you have taken the obvious stance, but we didn't need you for that. We had 400 comments on the bottom screaming the obvious. Oh, it's not about looks. But if you live in this world, and you see certain realities, so to simply say, well, in a perfect world, it shouldn't be like that, and therefore, let's live in that perfect world, means that you're not looking at the other side. And I told this lady, and I have a good relationship with her, I said, if you're going to be a leader, you have to be more nuanced than that. I said, and what you're doing by bashing this doctor is essentially going to make him stop. And then some people who really could have used it and can't afford it will no longer have this available. You took the obvious, but the world is never so obvious. The world is never so black and white. There's nuance. And that is what makes Torah amazing, that it covers nuance. That's what makes Pesach amazing, that it covers nuance. We don't live in a world of black and white. That's why we need hadracha. If things were black and white, we wouldn't need hadracha. There'd be a sefer, you'd be able to open it, and you'd get whatever psak you need to get. There is nuance. And this lady, to her credit, wrote, she said someone called her up, and she was able to look at it the other way. And she doesn't want to bash this doctor who was really genuinely trying to do a chesed. And she said, if I had a sister and this was clearly the issue, and someone was able to help, and it was mutal halacha, I would be happy that this man existed. Why am I telling you all this? I'm not telling you to run out and go to plastic surgeon. I'm trying to explain to you how there's nuance, and the Torah is there to address nuance. And the same way, when it comes to things like the internet, there is nuance. And the more we understand that, and I believe the shemua that I hear, and I'm sort of on the inside of this, the shemua that I hear from the Agudath Israel is that is going to be what they say. In order to ban the internet totally, today, you're not living in a world that makes that very practical. Actually, I got a call on the radio show today that a lady called up and she said, what do? I have 3 daughters and they're so angry at me for not having access to a computer, and there's schoolwork and there's this and there's that and they can't do anything. And I told this lady, you have a problem on your hands. You do. So maybe you'll figure out a way. I'll tell you what I did for my own children. Just you should know where I'm coming from. My kids do not have the internet. Chas v'sholom, I would not allow that. And what I did for my children, people wrote in today to the program. They text. They say, "But what are my kids going to do for entertainment?" So what did they do 15 years ago and 20 years ago and 25? There were always things. So one of my sons, I bought him a drum set. My daughter, she takes gymnastics and she does cake decorating. And each one of the kids had their things. And what I also did is I bought my kids cameras. And they have cameras. And then for a few of them, I actually bought them a computer with no access to the internet, but somewhere where they could upload the pictures from the camera to the computer. And they were able to play around with the pictures and make posters. And, my daughter likes to write, and she writes, and she's got a word processor, but nothing that is connected to the outside world. And there are ways to deal with it. And when we don't deal with it and we stick our heads in the sand, then eventually, if not us, then our children are going to find a way around it, and then we'll have no control at all. So, what are the 3 great dangers of the internet? Number 1 is bittul zman. When I'm bittul zman, everything's bittul zman. Anything I do is bittul zman. But there's an addictive quality to the internet that is undeniable, and the people who deny it the most are the ones who are most addicted. That's just the nature of it. We had a young man calling the show today, and he said, this is the first show, it's actually archived, you can listen to it online, and he said, I'm a yeshiva bacher. He said, my Rosh Yeshiva has a smartphone, and so do my rabbeim, so I figure if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Again, that very difficult balance at Rosh Yeshivas who actually need it. The smartphone is able to connect to the internet. So eventually he said, I also want to get one. So he got one, and he hid it from his parents and everyone else. And he began using it. He said, I never saw things like preachers or porn, but I did watch many things on it, and I saw it, and I'd play with it. And then what would happen is, I would find myself on it until 3 in the morning. And then I'd have this debate in myself, should I go to sleep now or not? It's already 3, then 4 or 5, catch Basikin. Now I feel like a tzaddik, like I did teshuva because I doubt Basikin, because I was up all day on the internet. And so I'll tell you, we play these games with ourselves. So he says, and then what would happen is, I would stay up the rest of the night, then I would go to sleep, and then I would miss the whole first Seder. And then I'd feel bad about myself because I missed first Seder, and it would make me feel down and low, and my learning began to slip, and on and on. So the addictive quality of the internet is undeniable. It's scary. That's number one. Okay? Number two, a totally different danger is the danger of seeing preachers. Now, for women, it is a danger. Women cannot comprehend the taiva that men have to see preachers, because you're not hardwired like that. Your brains don't work like that. Most of you, you see if there's a guy, he's cute, he's this, that. That's not the way it works by men. It's a whole different mechanism. Do you know that men don't understand your taiva for dressing a little bit, not sneistic, a little bit tight? Men can't understand that? You hear about it again and again and again in school, in Beis Yaakov, in seminary. Men do not have any idea that it's a taiva for you. They don't. You just appreciate that. We're not. Why would you? Do we even care? I'll tell you something else. You know how women have a taiva to put on makeup on Shabbos morning? Men don't care. We really don't. We would rather you didn't wear makeup most of the time. It's one of the secrets that all men know, but all women just delude themselves and think, oh, he likes his makeup. No, most men don't like makeup. And to be Machal Shabbos, to put on makeup, we consider that's so ridiculous because, I got to put on my face. No, we'd rather most men just like a person. Just be yourself. Be yourself. So we don't chop your taiva for putting on makeup in the morning or to brushing your hair on Shabbos, right? You ever feel like, I got to brush my hair? Men don't get it. So we don't. I'm telling you, I taught in Torah V'das, I taught in Chaim Berlin. We men do not get the taiva for brushing your hair on Shabbos. We don't. We have short hair, and if you're in Kiruv, we have a little chup. That's called my Kiruv chup. And do you know how long it takes me to brush it? This is it. Boom. Me like Rabbi Wallerstein. You ever see that? Right? We both go boom. We just brushed our hair. That's it. We don't even need a brush. So we don't understand the taiva of brushing your hair on Shabbos. So too, you don't understand the taiva that a man has to see preachers. You can't understand it. But what you wouldn't understand even more is not just the taiva to watch it, but how low a man feels when he does end up seeing it. And how it affects his ruchnius, how it affects his davening. You can't understand it. Even married women, if they chas v'shalom see their men, so they're jealous. But they shouldn't be jealous. They should be very concerned that their men are part of a depression. That's what they should really be concerned. Don't be jealous of, that's ridiculous. It's sad, right? No one ever is going to look like an airbrushed picture, right? Airbrush is airbrush for a reason. Even the biggest stars get airbrushed. That's not the point. The point is that if he is watching it, he is getting depressed. Because there's nothing that makes a person feel lower than seeing preachers. And it is a downward spiral. So that's danger number two. And by the way, it is virtually impossible to avoid on the net. Virtually impossible. I have 8 sons. I have 2 sons came back from yeshiva. They sit and learn Yomam V'Layla. Baruch Hashem, all my sons I'm very proud of them, and they're learning. These 2 sons in particular, the whole Ben Azmanim, from morning to night, they're in Beis Medrash. It's like they didn't take a Ben Azmanim. So once I took the rest of the family to, I think we went to Great Adventures. Also, I try to go only in Jewish days. I don't let them go in general, because on a summer in Great Adventures is like taking them to the beach. It's really not that much different. But I took them Chol Moed. It was cold. We figured Pesach. It was still very cold outside. And these 2 sons, they said, can we go? I had told them that someone had sent me a link on YouTube that there are old videos someone put up of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky and Reb Shach and Reb Moshe Feinstein, like this great, where else, unless you were there, are you going to see videos of the old Gedolim? There's even a video of Reb Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, like that, from the turn of the century. It's unbelievable what's there. So they go on, and what happens is, they want to look, they want to put in Reb Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, but of course, YouTube has their own agenda. So they put ads on the side. And my Tamimas boys, who only want to see Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, end up seeing women dressed inappropriately. And the taivas, a man is a man is a man. There is no such thing, we want a man to be a man. Believe me, in today's day and age, we like that a man is turned on by a lady. We do. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I always tell, I spoke to a bacher recently, and he said, I'm very bad, like these girls. I said, what do you mean? You're good. You're normal. Thank you for being normal. It's good. You just have to control yourself. Don't do anything silly, because if you do anything silly, you're not going to get a chance to get the shidduch that you want. So wait, you're almost the right age. Wait, don't come too early to the party. Just wait. But everyone has a taiva. Everyone has a taiva. So that's number 2. Now we get to number 3. The third, and this is going to segue into what I want to speak about tonight. The greatest danger of the internet is not porn. It's not pizzas. It is not even the waste of time. This is my opinion. Again, I'm in Kiruv. You'll find people who disagree. The greatest danger of the internet is that it is a constant stream of people who hashkafically are anti-Hashem, anti-Torah, anti-Judaism. And wherever you go, unless somehow you could filter it and only end up on Torah Anytime and perhaps Aish.com, Torah.org, and a few other websites, in general, you're going to end up seeing people who are angry at Rabbanim, people who are angry at Yiddishkeit, people who have gone off the derech. You know that one of the matzavim, one of the realities of the frum world is that we're not into PR. You know what PR is? Public relations, tooting our own horn. We don't do that. You know why we don't? Because we assume that anyone who wants emes will recognize emes. That's all there is to it. But it's a mistake. Israel for many years felt the same way. Israel felt, we don't have to do PR because everyone's going to recognize that when Hamas targets civilian children and buses, obviously they're in the wrong. And why do we have to push PR? But of course, Israel was wrong, because like Goebbels, Yamach Shemo, from the Nazi regime, used to say, a lie that is repeated often enough becomes the truth. So too, hashkafas that are repeated often enough, again and again, that are connected to Torah, become the reality. And people begin to believe that reality. So, since we do not exercise our PR arm, we're not into, hey, Yiddishkeit is emes and this is Torah and this is true. Very, very few, they usually preach to the converted, as they say. Be like me, I'm speaking to you, but you spent tonight to come to Arnava, so you already agree with everything, with probably most things I have to say. Most people who don't agree are not hearing our side. But you know whose side they are hearing? They are hearing the side of the Hasidic lady who went off the derech and wrote a book about it. They are hearing the side of another Hasidic lady with a Hasidic guy who went on whatever it was show and in front of many, many, many people announced how ridiculous Torah is. The PR that they engage in is scary. And all those people who are in the Ben Hashmashas, they're somewhere here, they're from, but they've got questions or they're not sure. What's being piped into their ears and what they see again and again on one blog after the next, one commentator after the next, is anti-Torah, anti-Hashem messages. And that, to me, is the greatest danger of the internet. And by the way, you could even go to a From website, quote unquote, From News. I mean, I'll say it. You can go to a site like Voss's Nayes. Voss's Nayes is a suit. Voss's Nayes, it's like Hamish, in between Melchamai, Voss's Nayes, L'chaim, Voss's Nayes, right? What's news? And you know what? There's no Rabbanim who look after Voss's Nayes to make sure that what they print is not Lashon Hara, and what they print is okay. I mean, first of all, they just printed an article about the Yisachtas, but it was connected the Yisachtas by a certain person who I've been seeing his stuff. He's reckless. I actually mentored him many years ago, this fellow, and now he writes his blogs, and he's got an edge. Like, yeah, in the Torah Machane, but not really, but he's got his axe to grind. Voznai printed his letter as if it was a news article. How amazing, how fascinating. And then, even if their article is a news article, there'll be 30, 40 people who comment. I'll give you a typical example. They'll say that the Haredim in Eretz Israel have asked that in certain grocery stores where it's sort of crowded, there should be a separate line for men and women. Now, do we have that in America? No, we don't have that in America. Is it necessary? Well, it depends how sensitive you are. Personally, I'm not that sensitive. Maybe I wish I was. But there are people who are sensitive not to be, even by accident, bumping into women. And if you've ever been, or the opposite, bumping into men. And if you've ever been to Israel, you know that some of these makolets are very, very narrow. So, this is an example. Let's say there is a makolet where the Haredim in that very, very Haredish community have asked there be separate lines. So what happens? Vaz's Nayes makes that into a news story. The news story, Haredim have asked for a separate line in the makolet. That's very innocent, but they know exactly what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen? 30 to 40 people afterwards are going to comment about how weird and how strange how the Haredim are and how they give us a bad name and on and on. So really what you're doing is you're feeding the flames. I don't think Vaz Nayes doesn't know it. And they're not the only ones. I don't mean to point just them out. They all know it. It's a game. It's a game because anger sells newspapers. Anger sells magazines. Negativity. And that, to me, is the greatest danger. It would be one thing, perhaps, if the Torah Olam had a strong PR arm that every time an article came out, we would come out the opposite and show, no, what do you mean? It makes a lot of sense. Well, you're being so from, so you know what, how about not have separate bathrooms? Why? They're in separate stalls. Oh, that's not okay. Why? Because right? So you're the one who decides what's okay and what's not okay? Maybe, again, if there's a PR, but there's no PR. We keep quiet. So the bashing continues unabated. And you know what's happening, my friends? You know what's happening. By the hundreds, people are getting weak in their Yiddishkeit and they're leaving the derech. The people who stick around and read these anti-frum blogs, and they exist, and they continue to, and these guys are making money, and that is the third, and to me, the greatest danger. Now, why did I bring all this up? It reminded me of a story. There was a fellow who was a yeshiva guy, a koil guy actually, and for whatever reason, he brought the internet into his home, and he happened upon some pornography sites, and he began to look at him, watch him when his wife was not there. Now, can you imagine? Just the image, it creeps us out. A frum guy, beard, no beard, I don't know, but a frum guy, Ben Torah, who just spent all day learning Masechtas Git, learning Masechtas Ksubas, learning Baba Basra, comes home and begins to... So one day, he is there and he's playing on the internet. His wife wasn't home, or so he thought, and he was there, and suddenly his wife walks in, and the way his computer was situated, she walks in and she sees the screen, and she sees him with his big black yarmulke sitting surfing the porn. And there was this one moment of truth in his life, in her life, one moment. And you know what he did? He stood up. He didn't say a word. He stood up. He opened the window behind him. Opened the window. He took the computer. He walked over to the window. He held it outside the window. And then he let go. And it shattered on the pavement below. You could hear the shattering from a block away. Bam! His wife turned around, walked out of the room, and never mentioned it. What a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. You know why it's a beautiful story? It's a beautiful story because we have all slipped. We have all messed up. And while sometimes we feel judgmental when it comes to other people, we all know the truth that if a magnifying glass was held to our last benching, or our last Asher Yatzar, or even worse, we wouldn't want people to know our dirty little secret. And what happens is, we keep this secret inside of us, and it stews inside of us, and we know we're not as good as everyone thinks, and it begins to make us feel depressed. Like, if people would really know who I am and what I'm about. So I was thinking that today, specifically before this his Agudath Israel gathering, when most people, and I'm going to use the word most people that have been online have ended up watching things they shouldn't have, seeing things, not a minority, it's not true. Not half, most, and I would say a large majority. A large majority. Whether they'll admit it or not, a large majority. It's nearly impossible not to. It is the way the internet is designed. It's a net. It's interesting how they used to call the internet the web. I know people don't use that much anymore, but to me, that's exactly what it is. It's a spider web, and it grabs you, and it doesn't want to let go. And even if what you're watching is okay, on the bottom there, okay, and check out this news article, and of course, you sprinkle in all the news articles with preachers because you want people to click here. So people have to understand that we have messed up. And because we messed up, it doesn't mean that we don't have a second life after we've messed up. Christianity believes in a concept called original sin. Anyone ever hear of that? Yeah. Original sin? Do you know that you're all sinners? Who's a sinner? Raise your hand. No, don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. According to Christianity, though, everyone would have to raise their hand. And you know why they'd have to? They would have to because Christianity believes that, number one, everyone has sinned. As a matter of fact, on the college campus, there are these real freaky guys who are missionaries, but they're like in-your-face missionaries, and they bounce from campus to campus holding up big signs. You're all going to heck, sinners, you're all going to die, you're all going to burn, believe in Yashka, right? These big signs. And what they do is, as people are passing by, they say, "You've sinned, haven't you? Tell me you haven't sinned. Tell me." Stop it, get away. Right? You've sinned. And in Christianity, you don't have to have sinned. Because even if you've never sinned in your life, the very fact that Adam Arishon and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas means that you've sinned. Because you are culpable for their sins. They're not goyers, right? You are culpable for their sins. And therefore, according to Christian doctrine, you are born sinners, you will die sinners, and your end is going to be to burn to a crisp. And that there's nothing you could do to stop that. No teshuvah, nothing. The only thing that you could do is to perhaps believe in Yashka, and then you're saved. That doctrine is a very depressing doctrine. Because that doctrine says that anytime you have sinned, you've got no way out. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says quite the opposite. If you've done something in your life you're not proud of, guess what? That was in the past. You're not the same person anymore. A Yom Kippur is past, and if you've done something since Yom Kippur, then a Slach Lanu has passed in Shemona Esrei, an Ashamdu Bagadnu, if you're Sfard, has passed in Shachris. You have all done Teshuvah since then. And if you haven't done Teshuvah, you've done Hirhurei Teshuvah. And if you haven't even thought about Teshuvah, you will after this talk. And then you'll move weiter. And then you'll move on. Do you know the Gemara mentions very few people who never did Aveirus? If I were to ask you, who are perhaps the two greatest Jews in the history of Yiddishkeit? Moshe? The Moshe and Rabbi Akiva. Moshe and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was so great that he actually reached levels that even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't reach, and Moshe Rabbeinu had a child. Why wasn't the Torah given to Rabbi Akiva? Moshe and Rabbi Akiva in Chazal are mentioned on that level above. But they are not Yishai. Yishai didn't do an Adera, but he is not mentioned in the same breath as Rabbi Akiva. He's not mentioned in the same breath as Moshe Rabbeinu. It could be the opposite. Ki sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. Part of being a tzaddik is saying, you know what? I've done certain things that I'm not proud of, but I'm really a good person. I really am. And I really love the next person, and I really want to do chesed, and I really like Shabbos, and perhaps I love Shabbos, and I do. And you know what? I've messed up. I've seen things I shouldn't have seen. I've heard things I shouldn't have heard. I've said things I shouldn't have said. But that's part of being human. According to Christianity, that's the reason you're going to burn to a crisp. According to the Torah, that's a reason for you to v'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha. You have the opportunity to come back. We all deserve a second chance. This Shabbos, we did a Shabbaton at the house. And, Tazria Mitzorah, most people speak about Lashon Hara. That's the topic of Tazria Mitzorah. So, we decided to go around the table, but instead of everyone saying one piece of Lashon Hara, which would have been, instead what we decided was that each person should say something good about themselves. Say what it is, because very often the reason that we speak Lashon Hara is because we're so down on ourselves that we want to speak about the next person, makes us feel better about ourselves. So each person, I say, you know what? Let's speak Lashon Tov about yourself. I said, no being modest here. Just one thing. I know you have faults. Don't worry. I'm not deluded. No one's deluded into thinking you don't have faults. You do. Great. What is good about you? What are you working on? And what came out of people's mouths was so amazing. It was so inspiring that a lady came over to me after the meal and said, this was the most important exercise for me. You know why? Because I'm so quick to judge. And when I heard what each person's working on that I'm not working on, we each had this amazingness inside of us that we don't give a shot to because we're depressed about who we've become. There's a very famous mashal in the Baal Shem Tov. It has to do with Hasidus, but I love this mashal. It's so beautiful. Baal Shem Tov speaks about how do we face life when we've done things in the past that we're really ashamed of. And he says the following. He said there was once a fellow who lived in a small little village, and he desperately wanted a new pair of boots. And he couldn't afford it, so all year long he raised money until he was able to afford this beautiful new pair of boots. He goes to the big city, which was a day's walk away. He gets to the city, he takes the money that it took him a year to raise, he goes into the shoe store, the shoemaker, and the shoemaker sells him a pair of the most beautiful boots he had ever laid eyes on. He was so excited. He's going to walk back to his little village, and they're going to see him in his boots, and he's going to be the parrots. He's going to be all this fancy guy, and the boots. He's going to walk around in his boots, and everyone's going to ooh and ah, and they're going to ogle the boots. And he was so excited to go show off his boots that he decided to take a shortcut back to the village. He wanted to get there. He couldn't wait to get there. So he takes this shortcut through a large field. Now, the problem is it had just rained. So as he's walking through this field, the field is very muddy. And he's walking in, and soon he hears a squish underneath his boots. And he looks down at his boots, and they're all brown with mud. His new boots, his beautiful boots. And he feels so bad. So you know what he does? He takes his walking stick, and he picks up his right foot, and he cleans off his boot. Cleans it off very carefully, to get the heel the best that he could. Finally, he felt confident that his right boot was clean. So then he picks up his left foot and he cleans his left boot and he gets it really clean. And now it's almost like new. And then he's about to continue walking when he looks down at his right foot and his right boot and he sees it's muddy again. So he picks up his right foot and cleans it. Now his left foot is muddy. So there he is, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Well, there's the guy who owns the little field, and he sees this guy trying to get the mud off, one foot, and he's laughing, and it's hilarious. Finally, he has Rahmanas on the guy, and he says to him, "Idiot! Get out of this field, and then wipe off your boots. Just keep walking. Keep going. There'll be plenty of time to clean off your boots. For now, get out of the field." And the Baal Shem Tov says, this is how we have to proceed with life. Did we do things we're not proud of? Yes, we did. That's okay. We're human. We're amazing. And we've done things we're not proud of. But to stew in them, to think about them day and night, we're not on the level of having hate in front of our eyes always. You know what that's going to do? That's going to depress us. And in our door, our Gedolim have warned us against the danger of depression. So get out of the field. You'll be plenty of time when you're older and more mature and you got your life together and you're ready to move on. Plenty of time to clean off your boots. But for right now, you're a good person. You keep Shabbos. You keep kosher. Some people don't, but you do. You try to learn. You try to avoid Lashon Hara. It's not always easy, but you try. You try to do chesed. You try to be there for your friend. Look at who you are. Instead of beating yourself up because you do this and that, you know what? There's a break. I had a Rebbe, Moshe Baruch Newman, and he once said, you know when you could do teshuvah? He says, you could do it right here in my classroom. It's the simplest thing. Just think about in your mind everything you don't feel good about, things that you haven't done right, averos. Okay, so got it? Now, you plan on doing it again? No? Okay, great. Now, tell Hashem, I'm sorry I did it and I don't plan on doing it again. Great, you just did teshuvah. That was it. You came into my class with chet, you're leaving free. Yes, Yom Kippur is Gavaldik, but you could do teshuvah. A person always has a second chance. It is the Yetzer Hara who says you got to wait till Yom Kippur, and only if you're on the level, and if you didn't prepare an Elul, then forget it, and if you didn't have a good Rosh Hashanah, forget it, and if you didn't daven every single word of Shemona Esrei on Yom Kippur with Kavanah, then what are you worth? It's Yom Kippur, you can't daven every... Yes, it is possible, even on Yom Kippur, to say words without Kavanah. Yes, that has happened on Yom Kippur to say, yes, it has. We would like Yom Kippur to be so scary and so holy and so connecting that not even one word, but the truth of the matter is some words are hard and the chazan sometimes goes fast and, sometimes we just space out. We're not bad. We have to move further. We have to grow. There was a boy, a young man actually, who went off the derech. And after he went off the derech, he didn't see his father a lot. Actually, he was hanging out in the streets, taking his drugs, being Mechal Shabbos, all of the above. And one day, a friend of the father's tells the father, oh, you know what? I was in this other neighborhood and I saw your son. And the father says, do you see him often? No, but I do see him from time to time. So the father says, you know what? I want to give you something for him. Can you just give him what I'm going to give you? So the friend says, sure. And the father takes a pen and a paper and writes something on the paper and gives it to the friend. And the next time the friend saw the son, he gives it to the son. He says, here, this is from your father. A few weeks later, the son came back home and he did teshuvah shalema. Came from... And the friend one day came over to the son and said, listen, I don't know, I may be out of place asking you this, so please forgive me, but I'm just curious, what What did I give you? It seemed to have this effect on you. So the son said, yeah, it did have an effect on me. I'll tell you what it said. It was a note from my father, and the note said on it, my dear son, one day I know you, my special neshama, are going to want to do teshuvah. And therefore, before you do anything, just ask yourself, is it worth it having to do teshuvah for this thing also? That's what it said. Every time you eat tarfus, every time you text on Shabbos, ask yourself, is it worth it to have to do teshuvah for this as well? So the son said, I began making a cheshbon by each thing. I don't know, it's not really worth it. I don't really need this so badly. This is not worth it. I don't want to do teshuvah on this. It's too easy. And slowly but surely, he said, slowly but surely, I came back to the derech. It was my father who said to me, you know what? You're an amazing neshama. Yes, you've messed up. Yes, we've all messed up. But one day you're going to want to do teshuvah. And therefore, just be smart about it. Be smart about it. By the way, that's a line that I use a lot. I get 10, 15 phone calls each day, easily, for people who are off the derech, leaving the derech, having problems. And I always tell people, be smart about it. Be smart. Because it's true, we all mess up. Messing up is part of being human. But after you mess up, you're going to want to come back. So, obviously, if there was a guy who's taking drugs, so I tell him, if you take drugs, if you're taking marijuana, don't take cocaine. Why? Because it's the next level, and, right, be smart about it. If you begin smoking, you're going to become addicted. Be smart. I'm not saying evil, bad, but you're not being smart. Right? Just play out how it's going to turn out. And often when we're smart about them, and smartness comes from becoming a little bit older. A little bit older, being able to play things out. So, my message of tonight, and I'll finish with a story. My message of tonight is that I don't delude myself into thinking that I'm sitting in front of a bunch of tzidkanios. I don't think you want me to look at you like that. Do you want that? I don't want you to look at me like I'm the tzaddik Israel. I don't need that. I mess up plenty, believe me. But I know, number one, that Hashem loves me. I know, number two, where I want to be in life and how to get there. And if I fall, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to go on. Because the majority of me, the vast majority of me is good. And therefore, the little bit that I slip up here and there, I'm going to rectify. We all deserve that second chance. Now, let me just tell you that you're going to get that second chance if you remain positive. Your one enemy is called negativity. And it's an enemy for two reasons, actually. It's an enemy because when a person is negative, then they're negative about themselves. Which is one of the reasons that these bloggers that we spoke about earlier have very little hope of ever doing teshuvah for their blogs, because their blogs are based on negativity. And if you're negative, then you're going to look at yourself like, I'm zevel, I'm terrible, I'm not worth it. And therefore, if I'm not worth it, then the Gedolim aren't worth it, the Rabbanim aren't worth it, from community is not worth it, they're all a bunch of fakers and liars and cheats. And whenever I can bring an example of it, I'm going to hold that example for everyone to see that I was right and you're all wrong and you're all a bunch of sheep. And that's the mentality of a negative person. If they were positive, it would never be like this. Because everyone understands that people make mistakes. And even a great person can make a mistake. There is this terrible irony. I'll just mention this. There's a terrible irony when it comes to kiruv. There was a certain makarev who did something inappropriate. And because of that, he was pretty much banished from the world of kiruv. But this makarev did teshuvah. And this makarev went through a real regiment of teshuvah. They really did. I know personally. And yet, the frum community has a hard time accepting it. Which is a stira, because if you could accept that a Baal Tshuva can do tshuva, why can't the frum person who did something wrong do tshuva? We all are Baalei Tshuva. We all have messed up, and we all have the ability to pick ourselves up. Sometimes we just don't give the next person the benefit of the doubt. And that's the second problem with going negative. If we mess up, especially if it becomes public, we're going to want the public's forgiveness. We're going to want people to give us a second chance. But we're not going to get it if we're the kind of people who are negative in the first place. If we are bashers, if we are people who look down on other people, then when our faults are magnified, when our faults come to the fore, people are never going to give us a second chance. Do you understand that? There are many priests who have been caught doing things they shouldn't, and most of them never get a second chance. And the reason why they don't is because when you stand up on the pulpit and you rank everyone out for doing certain things that you yourself have done them, what happens? Then it's a double sin. It's not just that you did it, but you're a hypocrite. So why should I ever give you another chance? It's part of the hypocrisy. I'll end with this story. There were two Bachrim. One, I'm not going to give you their last names. There was one Bacher who, his name was Ruvain, and one whose name was Yosef. And they were in a yeshiva together. They were in a yeshiva in New York, and they were big masmidim. As a matter of fact, they were known as the masmidim of their yeshiva, and certainly of their shir. And after they got married, they each got married to wonderful women that wanted to allow them to start off learning. It's a wonderful thing if you could do it, if the Bacher is serious. And these Bachrim were both serious. Now they were young delight. But what happened was, Ruvain, he was having a tough time paying certain bills. He was able to do it, but it wasn't in a comfortable, luxurious way. And he eventually left his learning. And he became, and he went into work. Nothing wrong with that. It's the way Hashem made the world. Perfectly fine. But what happened was, part of his ben Torah-ness, part of what made him an Eved Hashem, began to leave together with his learning. And his learning became more and more infrequent. Eventually, it became Daf Yomi at night, which is fine. Except for even that, he began to miss many days in Daf Yomi. And soon, he was catching a little bit of learning in between aliyahs, but that's all that was left. And days turned into weeks, which turned into months, which turned into years. And his children grew up with a father who they felt, he's talking the talk, but he's certainly not walking the walk. And it has an effect. And more and more, the way that he thought was not in a Torah-dic way. And time went by faster and faster. Finally, Ruvain, in his 40s, ends up going to a chasana one night. And he sees the Masada Kedushin. And he looks at the Masada Kedushin, and he sees it's his old friend, it's his old chivrusa, his fellow masmid, Yosef. And Yosef was not just a Rosh Yeshiva, Yosef was an Erlich Yid and a Ben Torah. And after the Kedushin, in the middle of the meal, he began to shmooze with Yosef. And in the middle of his talking, he says, I don't know what happened to me. I was a good, what was the difference between you and I? I don't get it. I decided to go into work. You decided not to. But something has happened. It feels like my neshama has been pulled away. I'm like a shell. I know what to do. But I'm not doing any of it. And life is just going by faster and faster and faster. So Yosef looks at him and says, you have the quickening. He says, excuse me? Yosef says, you don't know about the quickening? He says, no, tell me about it. So Yosef, this Rosh Yeshiva, says, there's a mechanism in the universe. We call it the quickening. The quickening means when we stop doing things of substance with our life, when we leave spirituality, time has a way of moving faster and faster. And it's called a quickening. And your 20s turn into your 30s, turn into your 40s. And the quicker it goes, the less time you feel you have on the clock to change. He says, you have to slow time down. And you have to start making your life more meaningful. And for a Ben Torah like you, the only way to stop the quickening is to get back into your learning. To find your neshama once again. Reuven comes home, inspired. The next evening, comes home from work, sits down, and opens up a Gemara. Now, his wife and his children had not seen him sit at the dining room table and open a Gemara in forever. And he sat there for about 5 minutes and he began to yawn. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like, how slow is this? And then he realized that in order to get the quickening to slow down, there's a painful process. So like going on a diet. In the beginning, when you change the way you eat, it's work, it's difficult, it hurts until you get into your rhythm. And he's pushing, and he looks at the time, it's a half an hour. In the olden days, learning 6 hours straight was nothing. Now, sitting in one place with the Gemara for half an hour is like heroic. And I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's about to close his Gemara when suddenly one of the little kids who's playing with a toy walks into the room playing with the toy. And his wife jumps into the room and takes the little child by the hand and pulls him out and says to the child, "Shh, we have to be quiet. Tati is learning Torah." He had never heard those words. It had been so many years. Tati is learning Torah. So he says, I got to continue. And he continues, and it's 45 minutes. And his wife comes in after 45 minutes, and she has a tea in a saucer with a cup. Just very quietly puts the tea next to him. And all of a sudden, that imagery of what it was supposed to be like, how life was supposed to be meaningful, and how the quickening was robbing him of life, was robbing his family of the ruchnius that it was supposed to have. And he felt, you know what? This is going to be worth the effort. And every night he began pushing himself, and soon staying that late wasn't as difficult, and learning a little bit longer wasn't so difficult. And he began to make goals for himself, and at this amount of time he wants to make a siyum, and he wants to know this, and he began getting into learning. And he saw that his kinderlach, surprise, began to get more into their learning, because it was chashuv to their father. And there's nothing that a child wants more than something that's chashuv to their parents. If it's chashuv to them, it's chashuv to the parents, it's going to be chashuv to the children. And he had his second wind. And he found his second life just on time to slow down the quickening. We all are like that. We all can experience a quickening of our life when we're feeling that we're not where we should be. When we're feeling like we're gechapt by the internet. We go home and we're there for another 2-3 hours. We're chapped by geisha music. We're chapped by books we shouldn't be reading. And it just drags us along. And we try to come up for air every once in a while. A little bit of ruchni is just so my soul shouldn't totally shrivel up and die. And we have to stop that quickening. We have to stop it in its tracks. Because you know what's going to happen? You will blink and 5 years are going to pass. And nothing will change. And if I tell you that you will look exactly like you look right now in 5 years from now, are you going to be proud of yourself? Or are you going to say, you know what? I hope in 5 years I'm going to be a much better person, that have worked on the things that I need to work on. So we're going to slow down that quickening. With that, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to find our second light. We're going to find that second inspiration. And we deserve it, and we have it inside of us. And Hashem should help us. Thank you.
Thank you.